a lot of companies still act like it's almost assembly line. Like you got 4 departments using 4 different tool sets. That might be fine and they're working great in that department. But when you try to get a holistic picture of what the company's working on, what's making money, you can't find that without someone taking the data from here and moving it to there.
Because you can't scale with 4 systems. It's just impossible.
Those collecting and processing data and predictable physical labor are 51% of labor, $2.7 trillion annually.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of The Process Fixer. Today I have Chris and Chris, which is like the easiest way to remember your names, is that you both have the same
Can't
name.
mess it up.
Yeah, you cannot mess up Chris and Chris. We've known each other. These guys have a company called Quantum Rhino. And we've known each other, I think, when did you first meet Tracy Ann? Like you guys knew my wife before you knew me.
Probably 2018, 2017.
Yeah, so it's been a while, right? Yeah. And you all met back from your other jobs.
Past life.
Yeah, past life, when she was at her past life at Salesforce. And you still do some Salesforce stuff to this day.
Right? Yeah. Yep, definitely.
So tell me a little bit about Quantum Rhino and the origin story of that, because you guys both mostly came from home building?
That's correct.
So how did this thing get started?
Yeah, great question. We worked with a lot of consultants in home building, a lot of tech companies, and a lot of times there's friction between, the company and yourself, and it doesn't seem natural. It doesn't seem cohesive. We thought we could do it better. We thought we could provide an experience where you think we're part of your company. We're not outside of your company. We're an addition. We're not staff aug, but we feel like staff augmentation. So we set out to start Quantum Rhino and built our book of business and just keep growing and finding new fun things to work on.
So Chris, you and I talk a lot about process automation and why that's so important, because so much of the world is, even in this day of technology, so much of what we do is still manual data entry. It's interacting with a keyboard, and it's just wildly inefficient in a lot of senses.
Absolutely. Yeah. We always try and go into a new company looking at the mindset. First of all, we want to learn the business. Yeah. We want to understand the different verticals that we're working in and how they operate with companies. What are the competitors? What are they looking for? And then we really start to look at that process and in the process between different divisions. And if accounting's asking for something, how is that going to affect finance? And so on and so forth.
It's understanding the interconnectivity of all those silos. And I think this word silos, like a lot of people forget, even 25, 30 years ago, companies used this word silo. Like, well, we'll put them in this silo and we'll put these employees in this silo. And then all of a sudden the word silo became like, you do not want to have silos.
Thing.
Bad thing in your organization.
Plan,
but so many of us, our org charts were formed in that time, or our mindsets were formed in that time. Because you guys are, we're not young entrepreneurs anymore. We're experienced entrepreneurs, and I think this happens a lot where it's like the mindset that we had of we're like, oh, we have to run the organization this way, and then the world changes, and we have different people in it, and we have different processes and different systems, and we see this a lot where even with organizations, we'll go in and we'll analyze what are all the systems they have, and we'll start to put those into that, which departments are using what, and it does become siloed. We just worked with a company here recently where they've got 4 different project management tools. One department uses one department uses another. They're all independently working and actively using these things pretty well with no interconnectivity to the core systems and no sharing of information between those systems. So how somebody's still going to be a mule in the end of the day and carry this information down the hall to a meeting that should have never freaking happened in the first place. That could have probably been an email, or probably it wasn't even necessary if they were all using the same system. And that is it's a core fundamental problem with most business.
Yep. Yeah, you see a lot of companies still act like it's almost assembly line. Like sales sells it, then developers build it, and then finance or accounting builds it, and finance collects the money. And really, it's one thing. It's a company. And if a lot of these departments can't think or don't think as a company, so you got 4 departments using 4 different tool sets, that might be fine and they're working great in that department. But when you try to get a holistic picture of what the company's working on, what's making money, what are we doing, you can't find that without someone taking the data from here and moving it to there.
That's why so many businesses end up being regional too. It's because they don't have that ability to scale beyond that, because the systems themselves are the limiting factor. We just consulted for a firm recently that, was like, do we need to upgrade our systems? And we looked at their timeline. Like you said, we're looking at the timeline, we're looking at the competitors, we're looking at everything. And we just essentially said, look, if you want to sell this thing in the future, you're going to have to do it. Like you're going to have to do it, and you're going to have to do it soon, because if not, you're just going to get lost in the shuffle. So how are you going in when you're getting an engagement with a company, Chris? Where does that start? Is that starting having a meeting with the executives? Is it trying to understand the tech stack that they have? Where do you guys fit in?
Yeah, we really ignore the tech stack.
That's good.
We really,
because it's probably, I don't want to use the F word on one of these podcasts, but I almost did right there. I'll use shit a lot of times, but it's probably shit.
Yeah,
right?
we try and be technology agnostic, so we don't care. Obviously, it's going to be much more efficient being in the cloud. There's this whole cloud revolution that happened, 10, 12 years ago, and Salesforce is at the peak of that. Yeah. So, but we work with AWS and Azure and Salesforce. So technology aside, we really focus on the business, and we really understand what their pain points are.
Yeah.
And do they have 4 systems? And if so, which one's going to win out? Because you can't scale with 4 systems. It's just impossible.
I see this in a lot of companies where they are using Slack and Teams, and it's like, you're going to have to pick.
Yeah,
you're going to have to pick number one. Now, the interesting thing is Zapier just came out with a connection between the two, so that if you're doing something in Teams, you can do. So I was like, okay, I get it. Like, but I'm still paying for 2 pieces of software at some point. I got to pick a direction. And so I'm glad that you say that you do ignore that tech stack first coming in, because it has legacy to it. It has history to it. It has sunk cost to it.
Yep.
And that sunk cost fallacy can really mess you up. And I've seen CEO after CEO that's like, yeah, but we spent, $8 million 25 years ago creating that DOS system and putting in the dot matrix printers. And it's like, I understand. And that got you from point A to point B. The world is now in the X, Y's, and Z's. Let's move on from that. Chris,
if you started now, your new company now, are you going to do a DOS system?
No,
absolutely not. So why are you still using it today?
I think that's fundamentally part of the challenge with AI too. And, we had the AI daddy here for a couple of episodes, and, he's inside companies helping advise them on how to bring AI in. And we're still at a point with AI where I have one company we've built an AI for, we're working through that right now, but we're really adopting a lot of AI in a company right now is difficult because we're still in the shifting sands of year one. Not to downplay all the guys that have been research, and I know lots of these guys, Masood, Pravir, all you guys that have been doing this forever, no offense, because I know you've been out there for 10 years doing this, but for us as entrepreneurs, AI has been a thing for 11 months. Yeah. Like it's still really new, right? At least in the, in a way where we could go and play with it, where we could get in the sandbox with it on a daily basis. So if anybody thinks that all of the AI solutions that will be are already out there in the marketplace, you're just sorely mistaken. I mean, you guys do product development. How long does it take? Can 9 women have a baby in a month? Or does it actually take 9 months to get it done? It takes a while to get stuff built.
It takes a while.
So anybody that looks at the landscape of AI today, you aren't seeing the picture. You're not seeing the pipeline that is coming, that's being developed. So I tell companies, even to this point, I'd say, let's not worry too much about AI right now. Let's worry about core systems, getting the shit out of them, getting back to the essentials, getting down to the fundamentals, figuring how to automate, outsource, abbreviate, eliminate garbage from those things. Then this time next year, when AI is a little bit more cemented and companies like Microsoft and Google are backing those things, then I can trust my data to do that. But until that point, let's not jump both feet into the water.
Some of the things are crazy, even coming out I think this is a couple months ago. Can I say an
please.
AI tool?
Yeah,
All right.
of course, yeah.
Air AI. Have you heard of this one?
Air? I don't.
Air.
Oh, yes. The one that, the telemarketing.
It's insane.
My
you listen
God.
to it, 10-minute conversation, 20-minute conversation, and it sounds human.
It does sound human.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff that's out there. And I think anytime you see these new innovative products, and let's just be honest, when it comes to product development, it's usually not the first guy that figures it out that makes $1 billion. It's the second or third guy that makes the real money. So it's like you see something like Air and you go, this is incredible. And you might want to look at integrating that into your business. Very true. But you have to understand that there's another entrepreneur, a group of entrepreneurs out there that are looking at Air and going, what if it did this?
Yeah, sure.
And that next version that comes out, and we've all, listen, this in the competitive landscape of business, it always happens that, you create something, you get it out in your marketplace and you're like, it cost me $3 million. And I finally got it. And then some kid figures out how to do it for like $26. And you're like, damn it, back to the drawing board. I mean, it happens all the time. That's what innovation's all about. It is all about that iterative nature of taking things, down the path. It's like I talk about golf all the time. And, if you're playing par 5, you're not shooting for the pin unless you're Happy Gilmore. Right, you're setting it up the shots, and that's what I think AI is in right now. We're getting the ball down on the fairway, and we're now starting to see what our approach is. And some stuff's rolling into the sand, and some stuff's out there in the green. And it's a little bit. There's some work to be done, I think, But to your point, there is also a lot of work to be done right now to get ready for what is coming. Right,
Absolutely.
Because if you're not doing it, you are behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, if you're not looking at it now, if you're not looking at what tools are out there, how can they help your business? How can they hurt your business? You're behind.
And it changes how you think, right? Like you go back to the first, .com boom, search engine optimization, new thing, new career path for people. Now you're going to have prompt engineering. So whoever's best at coaching these AI models is going to do great.
And then you've got, not to give too much of a shameless plug to my friend Masood, but here's a great plug for you, Masood. I had him on the show here recently, and they've created this thing called the object messaging model, and they've wrote some documents on it. And now they're getting out and talking about this, where they're taking language models and allowing every piece of data in an organization to have access to a language model so that they could look at their P&L and they could say, oh, what does this mean? And that AI can look at every associated document, every receipt, every email, every project plan, every person that's opened a file, and they can say, well, yeah, this is what this means. Yeah, we spent more on tires because our tire pressure sensor monitors last month told us that we needed to do maintenance on these 16 vehicles. And because we didn't do that, here you can see right here, the email was sent to the driver that says they were supposed to put it in. And you can see that they never did it on their DVI report the next day. And you can see how that translates. That's where we're going,
right?
Yeah.
To give all data language. And I see a future where if we're in a boardroom, there's a whole, I don't want to say the Alexa word because she'll hear me. There's a box sitting here that I can say, hey, why did we lose money last quarter? And it goes, well, dummy.
Yeah.
I can show you, look at page 46, line 11. It was pretty obvious. And you go, no, because I couldn't look through all that data. Or I didn't even think to look there. Or I didn't associate the number of Home Depot receipts with how many miles we put on our trucks and all these different things. But that's what AI is so good at. But if you're not cleaning up your systems right now, you're gonna have a hard time. And it's gonna be, I've said this on another show, we went through this era where, people were quitting work and this sort of quiet quitting and people leaving the workforce and not wanting to do these kind of things. We went through this time where it was hard to hire people. I think we're coming up to a time where there's going to be a lot of companies that go under because they figured it out too late. They figured out automation too late. They were still too manual in their processes, and a competitor comes out that's 100 or 1,000 times more efficient, and they can process applications in a fraction of a second. And you're a mortgage guy going, well, it's going to take me about 2 weeks. And somebody's going, but I can go online and do it in like 15 seconds. Or I don't even need to do it. I just press a button and it goes to my bank account.
Or if you're doing the same thing with 800 people that they're doing with 1,000 people. So.
Yeah. I mean, Instagram is a great example of that. People forget Kodak was one of the biggest companies in the world. Tens of thousands of employees. They had their own golf course at their headquarters. They had tennis courts and locker rooms and all sorts of things. And Instagram, with 16 people in one room, sold for $1 billion. You know, they only had they didn't have an office. They only had one conference table that they all sat around, and they sold for $1 billion. And I'm thinking the Kodak execs have to be rolling over in their grave going, we built an entire empire and it was defeated by 16 people in a conference room. But that is truly about being willing to, I want to say sink cost because your nickname's Sink.
All right.
You know, to understand that sunk cost, right? And to say, I'm okay losing $20 million. I'm okay losing what we built in order to build something new and something fresh. We call it break shit, build shit, the process fixer. We say, look, you can't build shit without breaking shit.
Sure. Yeah.
Just ain't gonna happen. Well, but we want to build this skyrise here. Well, somebody's got to demo something. Well, but we really love that. And it's part of, well, then
you can't build it.
You can't build it. You know, I'm not going to do it on stilts. Like we can't do that. So I just think it's such an important part of that. Now, in your business right now, you both came out of the home building industry, right?
Yep.
So you obviously have a forte in that space. Is that the only space you work in, though?
No, it's not. We have nonprofit clients. We have pharmaceutical clients. We have legal clients. So we are spread across a number of different industries, but home building is really the core. We understand all the systems. Yeah.
I mean, you guys were all executives in the home building industry.
Yeah.
So if you're a home builder and you're looking for somebody that you don't want to have to explain everything to.
Yep, exactly.
You guys are the experts.
And it's greenfield, right? You have, for so many years, they were doing things without technology, without scaling technology. And now they're starting to see some of these top 5, top 10 builders that are actually building out this technology, and they're seeing the profits increase. They're seeing the revenues increase, and you know, the other builders are starting to follow suit. So it's very monkey see, monkey do in that industry.
I think that's really true. And I saw that, you know, I hosted another show last year called Profit Matters, and it was for an accounting firm that was in the construction space. And it was interesting how many of my guests, when I talked to them about their construction automation company, time tracking or estimation or whatever it was, first and foremost, most of them were based in Salt Lake City, which was very interesting to me. That was like the sort of
it's the hub.
Yeah, the hub.
Yeah.
And almost every one of them, when you ask their CEO, what did you do in past life? They go, well, I actually own a construction company and we had this problem.
Yeah.
And we needed a solution and there was nothing out there and there was no tech available. So we built the tech and then we needed some extra cash. So we started calling around and we had some investors come in and they looked at it and they valued this piece of software that had no customers. They valued it like 10 times more than our construction company.
Right.
So we sold the construction company or we handed it off to a brother-in-law. And now we're a software company. And I think that's a really interesting thing because yes, you're right. This industry, construction in particular, has been slow to respond when it's come to technology. You could take a picture of any job site right now if guys are doing masonry work and you can think about ancient Egypt and you can essentially superimpose. You can go, it's probably the way they did it there. Like, they're putting mortar, I mean, it's not developed very much over 5,000 or 6,000 years. Now there's 3D printing and things coming, but it hasn't developed significantly over that time. But I think the processes have been really similar.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, there's lots of clipboards.
By
There's lots of clipboards in ancient Egypt, and there's lots of clipboards still to this day in that industry. So construction is one of those areas where, in particular, I think you've found a niche because it is so antiquated. And I think you mentioned legal. You mentioned a couple others as well.
Yeah. So from the home building, you know, I have a joke that home builders are just lawyers that build houses on the side. So it really transitions into there's so much legal paperwork when you buy a new house. You know, you might have a 60 or 100 page contract. You might have an addendum that has 200 pages if you buy it in the state of California. So, you know, there's a lot of paperwork and there's a lot of things that can be automated. So it really naturally felt like that was a good fit for us to go into the legal space and take document management to the next level there. Yeah.
How do people find out more about Quantum Rhino?
Oh, go to our website.
QuantumRhino.com, probably a good place to
Yeah.
start, right? And you both are on LinkedIn. I'm gonna have you stick around because I want to do another episode with you here too, particularly to talk about some of the stuff that we've started working on in construction together, because there's some awesome opportunity there, and I can even give you. It'll be fun. We'll sort of do a live update of the way I've been presenting to some construction companies about some of the things we're talking about, and we can sort of do that. So
yeah, that's great.
That sounds awesome.
Thanks for being here, guys. Thank you all for
thanks for
joining
having
us, and we will see you next time here on the Process Fixer.
You ready? Let's go. Welcome to the Process Fixer. Help you see the bigger picture. Derrick names is the elixir, cutting waste away like scissor. Woo! Got a problem, he can solve it. He's an expert with the process, so for sure you'll see a profit. Bottom line profit. Analyze the work your people doing every day. Expose the inefficiencies getting in the way. Advise you how to automate, outsource, abbreviate, eliminate, innovate. Now there's more food up on your dinner plate.